Internet is a really great technology. Its ability to connect people across countries and cultures is amazing and significant. And who doesn't like funny cat videos and memes? But mighty is neither the pen nor the sword, but the hand which knows when to pick what. This video is not going to be about me asking you to quit social media, but rather it will be a pointing out of how social media is capable of distorting our sense of reality. The timestamps for the video will be available below where you can use them accordingly. In the landscape of human existence, social media is a fairly new technology. I mean, all our ways of communication and consuming content differed vastly 20 years ago. But what didn't change as much is the psychological beings that we are. Tell me if you relate with this. Do you close a social media app after scrolling for a while and instantly open it back up, or just switch to a different social media app? And this mostly happens without us making a mindful choice, like it's a habit or a muscle memory. But how does this happen? Social media has the capability of causing a release of dopamine or the feel-good chemical, which is the same chemical that is released by your brain when you do things like eat cake or use intoxicants. Not only it is capable, but is rather designed to function this way. In a 2017 interview, Sean Parker, the first president of Facebook, stated, "We needed to sort of give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while because someone liked or commented on a photo or a post or whatever. It's social validation feedback loop. You're exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology." The inventors, Mark, Kevin Systrom on Instagram, understood this consciously, and we did it anyway.
The inventors, creators, and it's me, it's Mark, it's the Kevin Systrom at Instagram, it's all of these people, understood this consciously, and we did it anyway.
Chasing these dopamine hits eventually becomes a habit, and in the words of Nietzsche, every habit makes a hand more witty and a wit less handy. Apart from its addicting nature, what makes it even more powerful is its ability to distort reality. To explain this better, let's take up Plato's Allegory of the Cave. The Greek philosopher Plato asks us to imagine a group of humans that have been chained to a wall inside a dark cave since childhood. The only thing they see is the shadows of different objects passing behind them in front of a fire. As shadows are the only thing they have seen since childhood, they will consider these shadows to be the reality. After years of imprisonment, a prisoner is freed. And when he takes a look at the fire, it causes pain in his eyes. He turns his eye back to the comforting shadows on the wall his eyes are accustomed to. At this moment, he is dragged out of the cave and put under the light of the sun. The light is too overwhelming for him and causes great irritation and pain initially, but eventually, as time passes, his vision starts adjusting to the sunlight and he is able to see not only shadows but real objects and ultimately the sun itself. Now there is one more part to the allegory, but we'll come back to it at the end of the video. For now, let's see how this applies to our use of social media. If we look at our feeds, certainly a division can be made between two kinds of content, that is, corporate and social. In the corporate section, we get influencers, advertisements and brands, etc. And the social section comprises of communication as well as posts from people like friends, family and co-workers. Let's address the corporate section. Any business transaction requires three parts or three actors: a seller, a customer and a product. The seller here is clearly the company that owns the social media service. And the customers, the ones who pay, are usually corporations placing advertisements on these social media services. So what is the product? It's us, the users who use the service for free. We are the product. This is where the trouble begins. Whether online or offline, corporations have always used trends as a way of selling more products. See, every social media service aims at increasing the amount of time you spend on it. The more time you spend, the more ads you'll see. The more ads you see, higher the probability of you buying a product. And the best way to accomplish this would be to keep you in a comfort zone, to show you posts that already align with your beliefs and don't offend or challenge your notions. Now what's intriguing is that this zone soon acts just like Plato's cave. As we invest more and more in our beliefs, they eventually start appearing as reality. This ultimately becomes a hindrance to our growth as a person. The very attachment to beliefs results in ignorance. We start losing our ability to accept that beliefs can change over time as we grow. This impacts our society, our governments, how we see and treat other people. When it comes to the social aspect, social media is a place where we showcase the best moments of our life. Moments like graduation, getting a new job, or the good times we spent with our friends and loved ones, a selfie we took when we felt cute, and memes. But does there lie a problem in what seems on the surface a harmless activity? There is no denial that as humans, most of us live chasing happiness, and there is nothing wrong in wanting to be happy. But this situation is often seen as a black and white zone with no grey area, where you can either be happy or be sad or depressed, and there is no in-between state or area. Life is not static, but rather ever-changing and dynamic. Happiness, sadness, anger, pain, loss, joy are all contents of life. But our social media feeds are usually a representation of only the good moments. It is a filtered and a curated section of our lives. In addition to that, so many creators like PewDiePie have talked about how influencers can exhibit an image of perfect lifestyle and force fake positivity on social media platforms. As we scroll through a feed full of happy moments, beautiful travel photos, delicious looking food, motivational quotes shouting at us to hustle, it might create a feeling of emptiness or that there is something missing in our life. It can even make us feel envious and sad, or that we are not living our life to the fullest. To sum it up, it can cause FOMO. These posts become like shadows on a wall inside a cave. They have in them the ability to distort our reality. Sean Parker, the first Facebook president, stated, "It literally changes your relationship with society, with each other. It probably interferes with productivity in weird ways. God only knows what it's doing to our children's brains." The motto has always been connecting people, bringing them together, sharing with people, expressing yourself. But when we take up the communication aspect, scientific studies suggest some interesting results. The American Journal of Preventive Medicine conducted a research on social media usage and the feeling of social isolation. Contrary to assisting in actual communication, with a rise in social media usage occurs a rise in the feeling of social isolation. And we can see why this occurs. Think of a real-life conversation. There are so many ways you express yourself. Your voice, gestures, eye contact, touch, and all of this gets lost in a text. Most people act differently on social media than they do in real life. Often, a persona is maintained on social media which is highly unrealistic. We end up communicating not with people but rather ideas. It can really distort our notion of reality and mess up with our mental health, where rather than seeking a meaningful life, we end up seeking constant dopamine hits. And a lot of people who have worked on this technology have admitted the harmful effects caused by social media. Not to mention how the blue light emitting from our devices when used at night can disturb our sleep cycle, which is crucial to mental health. So what's the conclusion? Should you quit social media? Well, it depends on you. Much like Plato's Allegory of the Cave, studies have shown that quitting social media may be initially hard, but in the long term, it ultimately leads to a better life. If you are someone who is easily influenced or feel addicted, a break might work wonders for you. You can try out things like reading a book or learning a new hobby. Social media is not bad in itself. You can find some wonderful stuff on it. It is just a tool like a knife. A knife can be used to cut vegetables for food or do some horrible stuff. The choice rests in your hand. Learn to use it wisely. If you cannot, get off it. And if you do end up using it, remember, never let perfect be the enemy of good. Now the final part of the cave allegory. The prisoner freed from the cave out of empathy would want to bring his fellow cave dwellers out of the cave into the sunlight. But after being accustomed to sunlight, he enters the once easily visible cave as a blind man. He will no longer be able to see as he once did and would be considered as a blind man by other prisoners. Imposing the blindness as an effect caused by his journey outside the cave, The prisoners would never dare to leave the cave. They would fear losing their sight. I hope this was meaningful and helpful for you. If you like this video and want to support more of these, check the link in the description. Any donation is helpful and genuinely appreciated. You can support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee. If you want me to cover more on these themes, let me know in the comments below. I make videos on metaphysics and philosophy, both Eastern and Western, as well as movies, artworks, books and other stuff. Thank you for watching.